board meeting to order. We're going to begin with a roll call. I'll ask Janine to call the roll. Here. Good evening. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Brian Battle. I'm just going to say a couple words here to try to put some context to the process of our facility plan and where we are tonight. Looking out for the people seated here, how many people remember the referenda that 220 had back in the mid-90s through like 2000? Okay, I see a couple of hands, but not as many. Okay. So you guys will remember that back in those times, the school district was running referenda to build or modify all of our buildings. And there was a lot of building in 220 from that period through about mid-90s through 2001. It has now, that's been about 20 years. It's time to try to think about refreshing our buildings. There are a number of people here that I've seen represent people like the fine arts boosters, the sports boosters, who have come to the board periodically over the last few years and said, you know, we would like the board to consider running a referenda to make X improvements, right? And the board over the last few years has said, not yet, right? I mean, this community, right, took on a fair amount of debt back in that period when we were building a bunch of buildings. And we've always said, we need to wait until that debt gets retired, and then we can we'll kind of redo a refresh on the facility, right? Well, that debt comes off of our district books in about 2021. For each of us, right, that building debt represents a fair amount of your tax bill. It is for a median household, say that's valued in the Barrington area about $550,000. It's about $700 to $750 a year, right? That right now is scheduled to come off in 2021. Whether we as a community want to reinvest in our schools with replacing some of that money with a new bond offering to do facility improvements is a question that's not a board decision. That's a community decision. Right? It can only be done in a referendum. It's not a board decision. I say that because at the end of this process, at some point, we as a community are going to have that conversation. The board knows we need to have that conversation. So as you see facility plans tonight and in the next month or so, I know a lot of people keep asking, well, where's the money coming from? Well, the only place the money is going to come from is in a community-approved referendum, let's be honest. But to have that conversation, the board felt we need to have a structure to that conversation. Right? So a year ago, we hired DLR, and we appointed a core team that was made up of some of our educators and some of our community members to begin the process of putting this facilities plan into some perspective so that we as a community can have a very good conversation. The timing to that conversation, we don't know, right? All we know is that for the next 5 weeks, beginning tonight, there's going to be a bunch of presentations like this, but in some cases more detailed at each one of our buildings. We're going to then take feedback from those buildings. The board and the core team will get together January and February, and we'll figure the next steps out from there. But this kind of 20-year cycle to refresh our facilities comes at a very interesting time, right? Because technology that didn't even exist 20 years ago is changing our workplaces, our schools, in a way that we probably didn't think about 20 years ago. So I think the core team, and I know with DLR's leadership, have done a lot of work in the last year. And the purpose of tonight, and what we're interested in getting your feedback on tonight, is to do this kind of first review of some of the work that the core team has done. And we'll end the night, I think, downstairs in the cafeteria, and we'll have a public comment and Q&A period at the end. But tonight is really just about reviewing kind of this first blush of what a facilities plan can look like in 220. Now at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our board representative on that core team, Penny Casimir, who has been, along with Joe Ruffalo, our board reps on our facilities committee, and they have done an outstanding job in this process.
Thanks, Brian. As Brian said, the core team was formed about 9 months ago to take a deep dive in learning what the community saw as value in this process and gather information from other districts as well. As the board rep to the core committee, I spent a lot of time with this group of people, and I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize them on behalf of the board. So if you're on the core committee, could you please stand? We all have little blue lanyards. So feel free to approach anyone with a blue lanyard tonight to ask them questions about the process and how we came up with some of these ideas. And I would be remiss if I didn't also mention the late Joe Kelch. Joe served on our committee as well. As many of you may know, Joe was a former school board member and was passionate about our schools and our community, having his own children and grandchildren attend our schools. And so, as you view some of the things this evening and throughout this process, I'm sure if you know Joe, you will see his hand in some of the things that we came up with. So, thank you again to the core committee and to everyone who helped make tonight possible. We have students involved, we have a lot of staff members. So, I hope you enjoy the evening. And on this note, I'd like to turn it over to Brian Harris.
Okay, we're going to transition. I asked the board, go ahead and we're going to come down front and be part of the audience. As we're transitioning here, again, I just want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for coming out this evening, spending your time here for the next couple hours, listening and learning. I hope tonight, when you're here, you learn something. You may have several questions when you leave this evening. We're going to have plenty of feedback opportunities available over the next month or so for you to be able to give us your thoughts, your opinions, your wishes, your desires, after you have an opportunity to view some things, some of the concepts and ideas. So as we get started here this evening, I want to reinforce what the purpose of this master plan is. We've been working for the last 9 months putting together a master plan. It means every school in the district, all of our capital assets basically, looking at everything. And what it is, and I'll just read this to you, you're going to see this again when you go to some other breakout sessions here in a little bit. Create a long-range facilities plan or roadmap that will guide the future implementation of projects to meet the identified board-approved needs of the district. And they will be tied to learning and teaching priorities. And we're going to hopefully educate you a little bit about why. Why are these things needed? Brian spoke a little bit about that. We've got some great instructional opportunities going on in our schools. But on the other hand, we need, sometimes facilities get in the way. And we're going to try to demonstrate that a little bit tonight, talk about some possibilities, talk about some positive changes that could have a significant impact on student learning. The why and the what is what we're going to address tonight and over the next month at each individual schools. The how and the when, that's down the road. Okay, that's not going to be discussed tonight, the how and the when. Tonight's the why and the what. So that's what you're going to hear. So we've been doing this since January. And a lot of you here I know participated in some of those initial conversations that took place in different stages. In the springtime, we did a lot of gathering of information. Then over the summer, we started to put together some thoughts and some ideas. The core team really engaged significantly, starting to take all that data and all that information and put together some ideas, some concepts of each and every school. So phase one, as I said, a lot of you attended these meetings. Out of each of the schools, we gathered information, we shared some of the physical assessments that have been going on in each of the facilities, and thank you for that opportunity. And I think you will see here over the next month or so, some of those are starting to be looked at and how we can address them. Phase two, we spent time looking at going out and viewing places regionally here in the Chicago area, but also throughout the Midwest. Looking at school districts like ours, comparable, that had made some adjustments, made some facility enhancements, renovations, even went and looked at a new facility in different locations to see what they did, the ideas on how we might be able to make some changes and some recommendations here. So you can see we did a lot of work. We also did a lot of work internally with staff, from a curriculum and instruction standpoint, focused on what are our learning needs now and trying to project what does 10 years down the road look like. And we're going to tell a little bit of that story here this evening. We also looked at the logistics, how many kids we have, what our classroom looks like, our schedules, making sure that we've got the appropriate space. And you're going to see some thoughts and ideas when it comes to that and what we're trying to do currently in our schools. So I'm going to turn it over now to one of our core team members, Lori Madison. Lori is a parent and has been at all 3 levels, currently in middle school and high school. And we'll let Lori tell you a little bit about the work of the core team. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. I'm actually really excited to be here, and it's been a great experience being part of the core team. So Dr. Harris reviewed phase 1 through 3. I'm going to take us into what we recently were in, which was called Phase 4. And this is when the core team met multiple times, about a dozen times, starting back in early July. And actually, our last meeting was last week during the Phase 4. During those meetings, we processed a lot of information, and we had a lot of discussions. And during that time, we had 3 main goals we focused on. The first one was to align facilities with teaching and learning priorities. The second was to address deficiencies, and the third was to meet future needs. That now brings us to Phase 5. That's why we're here tonight. It's the beginning of Phase 5. During Phase 5, there's going to be some district leadership team meetings, as well as community presentations. I know those dates have been out there. And then we're also going to do a lot of gathering of community input. We are not done. The process for Phase 5 is just starting. So this evening, we have an agenda, and it's broken into 4 different acts. So what I ask of all of you right now to do is to sit back, relax, and enjoy as we continue with Act 1.
Good evening. Tonight, you will be participating in a journey through time to the year 2027. Progress of our voyage will be benchmarked by events that have defined Barrington School District 220 from its inception through the year 2027. Education is an evolving exploration through time, experiences, and technology.
The bulletin board is the most important of all visual aids.
So, settle in and enjoy the ride.
At his own 10, Holman looking to get out of bounds. Room to run. And he's going all the way to the 30, 20, and a bit. No flag. Can you believe it?
January 2017. Barrington School District 220 begins a future-ready facilities planning process known as Blueprint 220. 2016. One to World initiative expands to all Barrington 220 students during the school year. 2014. Middle school graduation ceremonies are live streamed for the first time. 2004. Spanish dual language programming begins in district elementary schools in 2004. 1998. Barbara Rose Elementary School opens. 1992. Barrington Middle School Prairie Campus opens. November 1st, 1973. Barrington Community Unit School District 220 is formed. In 1956 through 1958, Sunny Hill, Roslyn Road, and Woodland Schools open. 1950. Barrington High School colors shift from maroon and white to red and white. September 12, 1949. Barrington High School opens at the new Lake Cook Road location. 1946. Barrington Consolidated High School District 224 is formed. 1946. North Barrington School opens. 1907. The first class required to complete 4 years of high school graduates. 1883. An additional north and south wing are added to Huff Street School. 1855. The original Huff Street School is built. 1847. The first one-room school is built on the same location as the Cat Low Theater. Monday, November 30th, 1840. Barrington area forms its first school district. October 1835. one-room schoolhouse opens in Miller's Grove near Old Sutton Road and Route 68. 1888. The first class graduates from Barrington High School. This was a two-year high school program housed at Huff Street School. 1947. Countryside School opens. 1953. Grove Avenue School opens. In the fall of 1960, additions including the auditorium are completed at Barrington High School. 1966. Barrington Middle School Station Campus opens. 1969. Arnett Sea Line School opens, featuring a flexible and open floor plan. On August 28, 2008, community-wide planning and funding efforts come to fruition with the dedication of the Barrington Community Stadium. October 19, 2010, the new Early Learning Center was dedicated. 2011, Chinese immersion cohorts are formed at district elementary schools. 2017, first dual-language Spanish cohort graduates from high school. In 2020, a business created in Business Incubator Program is the first to earn $1 million in profits. 2026 to 2027, students experience Artificial Intelligence Lecture delivered by Albert Einstein as part of back-to-school activities. We have traveled through time. We are now in the year 2027. We now invite you to experience a group of Barrington 220 students sharing their vision of the future of education within our district. In a student-written and directed presentation, they will demonstrate their ideas about how one family in the future may experience all that Barrington can offer in the year 2027.
Good morning, and welcome to District 220. We're so so glad you're considering moving to our district. My name is Alexandra, and I'm one of the guidance counselors here at Barrington High School. We have so many great opportunities for students, like a mock hospital for students wishing to go into the medical field, and a full prep kitchen for students wishing to go into culinary arts.
Wow, that sounds like a huge improvement from the way Barrington was when I was a student.
Are you a BHS alum? I love that. It's such a great community. When did you guys both graduate?
2012.
And I graduated in 1993. Go Broncos. That's amazing. I couldn't imagine raising a family anywhere else. In the farmer's market downtown.
Especially since they turned the Jewel into a Whole Foods.
When was summer tour?
What do you say, kids?
Oh, sure.
Welcome to the Student Support Hub. We as an administration believe it's important to focus on the student as a whole, which includes their social and emotional well-being, which is why we have centralized our dean's office, counselor's office, and mission counselors in one centralized location.
Mission counselor. What's a mission counselor?
Well, each student starts their freshman year by researching problems they see in the world, consider the impact they hope to make, focusing on not what they want to be, but what they want to do. Of course, over the course of years, students develop a topic or mission that they work towards solving or improving. Teenagers do have an advanced mind when it comes to certain politics or world problems compared to the minds of adults who are more influenced by how they were raised.
Wait, so what we do in school actually applies to the real world?
Exactly. We want you all to experience real-world careers and voice your opinions. That's why we strive to create student-centered learning areas and the typical funding classes that we have coming up.
I remember a few years after I graduated, they put in some sort of business incubator classroom that I wish I had the chance to experience when I was still in school. It sounds like there have been some huge improvements since then.
Yes, it seems like there's been a lot of huge changes that I wish happened when I was in high school.
Let's keep going on our tour. Here you can see some students working in the English Commons. Would your kids like to talk to them about their experiences?
Sure.
Who there? So I'm so in this family around that are considering moving to the district. Scarlett will be going into her first year of high school. Do you mind telling her what you're working on?
Sure. Right now, Garnet and I are working on solving world hunger by creating a plant food that will help plants sustain without water.
Wow, that's awesome.
Right now, the two of us are just working independently in a small common space because we need some peace and quiet. But there are lots of spaces around the school that can work on your different needs.
Yeah, like when we first started working, we spent lots of time researching in the comfortable spaces we have in the math and science lab. You have like bean bags and comfortable rolling chairs so you can move from place to place, depending on what you need.
Plus, every school area is open from 7 a.m. to around 7 p.m., sometimes later. That way we can work around any schedules we may have early or late if we need to, and work at our own pace.
So what you're saying is that you don't have to go to, say, Mr. Connell's 7th period English class anymore? You could just go wherever you want?
Well, not wherever you want, but teachers are less like teachers and more like mentors or coaches. They help us complete our missions. Today, we're working on writing up our research about the plant foods, so we're in the English hub so that teachers can help us. A few days from now, we're going to be presenting our research in one of the recital halls, and it'll show how we're getting closer to completing our mission. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that you can do whatever you want based on your own needs.
Thank you so much, Willa and Garnet, for giving us a look into your missions. Bye now. Go Broncos!
It seems like this is a much better way to prepare our children for the future. When I was in school, I had to walk up and down hill in the rain, both ways, and when I got to school, it was nothing like this.
I remember a lot of stress.
Well, now if students are stressed, they can head over to have some guided meditation in one of the meditation rooms at our Health and Wellness Center.
Health and Wellness Center? We had to play sports on actual grass, and now there's a Health and Wellness Center? Are the elementary and middle schools similar to this?
Yes, very. The only real difference is they have more structure with their schedules, and their teachers are there for a little more guidance, so they don't get off track from their missions.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's way better than our last one.
Why don't we take a look at our Health and Wellness facility? We have many machines that you can work on for special fitness, lap pools, rock climbing walls, and many different areas students can focus on their working on?
Sure. So I'm one of the wellness instructors in the facility, and I was just recording a yoga warm-up for my students to complete on the school page for the blended learning yoga course.
What's blended learning?
So blended learning is any learning that has face-to-face content and online content. So I just recorded an online session for my students to complete at home, and then we're going to debrief about it face-to-face, and it helps them to find their impact on what they can succeed in. So there's total student autonomy, and scheduling time is up to them, so they have ownership of their own education.
Sounds like we covered a lot of academic buzzwords.
We sure have. Let's meet some fine arts.
Yes, fine.
Wow, this art gallery is incredible. Is this all student art? Students can really appreciate the work of their peers since we've been able to integrate it into multiple aspects of the school. For example, we give our art students themes to work on based on the suggested reading novels, and then students can take a gallery walk and look at it and really connect to their missions.
Wow, multiple contents integrated together. Truly impressive.
Yes, well, the district decided that why not see in a bigger space to incorporate throughout the school? So there's an art gallery, a high-tech performance center, and multi-purpose space that older generations may know as the Black Box.
Yeah, but are the fine arts as important as like sports?
While our football team just won state again for the 10th year in a row, I believe that performance art has an even bigger budget for even better performances. Let's go to the performance centers where we can finish our tour.
Now this is what I'm talking about.
And it looks like they finally got rid of those horrible red seats from the old auditorium.
Those were awful, and even before I was a student. Could you imagine sitting in those during a lengthy student presentation?
Can we try to connect to those lights up there?
Hi there. Do you mind telling us a little bit about what you were just doing?
Sure thing. We're connecting all our LED lights to the Bluetooth system in the theater so we can run our light system design wirelessly.
We can change the color of the lights and program the lights through our smartphones. Here, check it out. Rock concert.
Wait. So you can just tell the lights go off and on?
Using an app designed by a student whose mission related to seamless Bluetooth integration. Totally.
We have the finest, most up-to-date equipment that allows us to program lights and sounds from our iPads and smartphones.
We have a lot more time to actually learn about the principles of light and design, and we get to spend less time worrying about working with old and outdated equipment.
We also have a fly system that enables us to fly scenery in and out, which has greatly improved the quality of our performances.
That's awesome. Do the middle schools and elementary schools have the same fly systems and giant stages?
Yeah, it was actually due to the fact that there were such fantastic theater spaces at the middle school and elementary school levels that got me interested in pursuing the field professionally.
Me too. I actually just got into Yale Drama School.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm actually the 10th VHS student to get into Yale Drama thanks to our incredible programming facilities.
Very impressive. Sounds like you've got a good crop of students here at District 220. Good job, girls.
Well, that looks like it brings us to the end of our time together. I hope you learned a little bit about our district and you'll consider moving here.
You gave us a lot of really great information, and this is by far the most impressive and student-centered district we've toured. What do you think, kids?
It's awesome. I want to go here.
Yeah, me too.
All right, it's pretty awesome. I'm so glad to hear you say that. But before you go, our principal has a video he likes to show to families that are considering moving to the district.
Great. Let's see it. Not getting any younger here.
Thank you so much for considering District 220 as a future home for your family. Here at Barrington High School, we pride ourselves in preparing future-ready learners, leaders, and students that are prepared to be successful in their future careers. We look forward to having you join us as part of Bronco Nation 2027.
Mom, what's wrong?
I haven't seen Stevie since we
That settles it. Kids, based on all of the incredible changes I've seen thanks to Blueprint 220, we're moving to Barrington.
Yes! 1, 2, 3. Barrington High School has a lot to teach. To our colors, to each other, to be so firm and strong, united our feet. So round up in Barrington, round for the flag and fight, fight, fight. Barrington High School has a lot to teach.
All right, how about one more round of applause for our students, please? I also want to thank Ms. Nowak, our theater director here at Barrington High School, for pulling that together and welcoming us into her classroom when we came to her with this concept of having our students participate in our evening tonight. So really, big thank you to Ms. Nowak as well and our students. So I hope you enjoyed the first two acts. For the next act, we're actually going to be a little bit interactive. So we're going to leave this space. When you came in tonight, you were given a building map, highlighted with where the 4 areas that you're going to go for your gallery walk. On the back of that building map are the 4 teaching and learning priorities that you're going to learn about as you stop at each of those 4 locations. Also, when you came in, you were given a ticket. Your ticket is a corresponding color. So when you look at your ticket, please find your first stop. For example, if you were given a green ticket, your first stop is the Guidance Resource Center, and then everyone just follow along to stops 1, 2, 3, and 4. We'll spend about 15 minutes at each stop with a 5-minute passing period, just like we would at school. So if everyone would join me with about 5 minutes to make your way to your first location, and we'll continue with Act 3. Afterwards, please join us down in the cafeteria, as Brian mentioned, for our public comment section. Thank you.
My name is Ernest Lane. I'm a teacher here at the high school. I teach mathematics. We're going to talk a little bit about future-ready learning. Future-ready learning is really providing students with innovative, personalized, and that's really key here, personalized learning opportunities, using technology to prepare them. And again, right here, this ever-changing workforce. And I want to show you really what students are going into now. What are they doing? And what does that space look like? My perspective is from a teacher. I am one of the few teachers that are on the core committee. So when I talk to you, I talk to you as a teacher, and I see your students every day. I may have had your students in class, I may have your students currently, or I may have them in the future. I've been teaching for 20 years, 20 plus years. When I started hearing about these plans, and I gotta tell you, I was a little bit skeptical. I wasn't completely sold. But now seeing what I've seen, and visiting the places I visited and seeing what's out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't help myself. I'm very excited about this. I think it is the direction we need to go. I want to remind you, again, what is future-ready learning? It's making sure that our students are ready, no matter what that future is, because nobody sitting here knows what that future is. What we were charged with was getting their feedback, getting the needs of the community, and making sure that we listen to all of those stakeholders in our community, and making sure that everybody was heard. What we've done is, we've just provided you this evening with possibilities. These are the possibilities.
I saw like how the classrooms could like open up, and I saw how like they have newer desks that are like more kid friendly. Hi, I'm Kate. I'm an 8th grade student at Station. they have desks, like even some of the desks are like connected to the chair, so that makes it really hard to work in groups. And with the desks that I saw, kids could like come together more, and so everyone could be facing each other.
I definitely think I would like this better. It's open and like fresh and new, but not just the same traditional thing.
If you take a look, this is a current station classroom. But before we go on though, I want to make sure you realize that the teachers that are in this room are doing a phenomenal job with what they have. Don't get me wrong. We produce an amazing student. We do. And I think by any measure you would agree that we produce an amazing student. And this is what they're working. And I think we can do it, but I think we can do better. I don't know that we're going to create a necessarily measurably better student. What we're going to create is a different student. Because right now, the way things are changing, they need to, what they experience when they leave us is going to be different than what we experienced. Here's another classroom again. Teachers doing phenomenal jobs. But imagine this. Imagine taking the Prairie campus, this is a little prelude to what you might see later on this evening. Again, no plans, just ideas. Taking this space, this flexible learning space, and opening up for students to really imagine in this middle school these open spaces and flexible learning. As a teacher, it would be amazing if I could specialize my instruction to different groups of students, yet still be able to see them all. Again, collaborative spaces. These walls move. These are completely soundproof rooms if I need a whole group instruction. I've got small spaces here and back here where I could truly create those, and remember I said those individualized learning opportunities for our students. Now look at the high school. If I took the west wing right here and created these future-ready classrooms, again, notice, look at the amount of light coming in. You would enjoy being in this room. This is amazing. This is actually a classroom with a hallway going past here. Why do our classrooms have to be closed in the front? I'm not doing anything secret back there. If someone walks by and wants to see the exciting stuff I'm doing, well, take a look. When I go to the great beyond, wherever that happens to be, this is where I want to teach. Look at this room. Isn't that phenomenal? So what's next? That was the middle school, that was high school. And guess what? Higher education looks exactly the same. That's what's happening in higher education. These are the open spaces and flexibility. This is this collaborative workspaces that are appearing everywhere in these institutions of higher learning. So it's not like I'm just preparing them because, love this picture. There are these little cubes of multiple workspaces that just kind of hang in space. Fascinating, interesting, and doable. What's next? The workplace. Tell me that doesn't look exactly the same as the middle school, as the high school, as the higher education levels. Does this not look exactly the same? What are we preparing them for? We're preparing them for this. These open spaces and flexibility. Look at this workspace. This is what they're going to be doing. This is where they're going to go. Multiple workspaces. You don't have the office set up anymore. So much stuff is done through perhaps people come to the office half-time or part-time. You need to have a space that you can work with that's not necessarily your space, but you share it and you collaborate, and that's what we have to provide. I challenge you now, if you look at every single one of those 16 pictures, can you tell the difference between the middle school, the high school, the higher education, or the workplace? They're all the same. This is where education is going. This is where the workplace is headed. And I hope that we can provide this seamless transition from those three things. I believe our students are future ready when they're future flexible. Remember, flexibility doesn't just mean flexible in the classroom today. It means those classrooms in 10 years from now can be transformed to the next big thing, and the next big thing, and the next big thing. It's flexible for now, and it's flexible for future use. I really appreciate you coming. Thank you very much. Again, thank you for coming.
In this session, obviously, we're focusing on visual and performing arts, specifically across levels. And as one of the Blueprint 220 core members, what we wanted to do as we were discussing kind of this very large topic is to return back to some of our core values in each of these 4 areas, which we defined in visual and performing arts, that we do provide students a high-quality educational program that advances interests, knowledge, experiences, and abilities in visual and performing arts. And it's a very massive program in terms of curricular activities. So every student, kindergarten through 8th grade, is in a music class, is in a visual arts class. We have large numbers of students who participate in our instrumental program beginning at the elementary level, and we do offer extracurriculars even at the elementary level as well. And then at the high school, it does become an elective, but each semester we have about an average of 1,500 students who are enrolled in the arts class at any given semester. So we have a pretty wide footprint of students, and I think that's important to recognize that it's not just like a small subset, a small group at any of the levels, the middle school certainly not either. Then, you know, really some great things going on with some of the after-school extracurricular programs too. In terms of the process, I think you're going to see this in every area you go to, just that we're looking at creating a long-range facilities plan, a roadmap, working with the Board of Education, examining where our greatest needs are, and then thinking about where we can go on that journey. And that's why it's so awesome that we have such a great turnout tonight, because we want to hear your voice, we want to engage with you and hear your thoughts on some of what we're sharing this evening. In terms of the arts, there's so much research, brain-based research, evidence-based research, that the arts are good for kids. I know that, I see that every day out at each of the levels, K-12. I see how it's not an extra for a number of students, it's their identity, it's what gets them through the day, and then I love it when the research supports what we believe and what we see. And there's so much research, you know, that having a student read music or play an instrument, that it helps them become better at math. It's a strong correlation. There's so much evidence that being part of a production or being part of a concert, thinking outside yourself and being part of that larger group, it's good for a child's social emotional learning. Last spring, I worked with some of my arts teams to do a pretty in-depth audit of how our spaces are being used. And so what we found was that last year, this is just one example, we did this for really all of our spaces at the high school. The high school last school year was used 1,112 times per year. So examining all 12 months of the year. So that's an average of over 3 different uses per day, including Saturdays and Sundays. We also looked at current facility limitations. And I know, I love that picture. And you know, across levels, there's probably, I gathered input from all of the teachers. Actually, we have a number of fine arts teachers in this room, which is awesome tonight. But sent out asking them for pictures, for ideas, where they see need. So I'm going to cover this in a limited amount of time, just in a very broad way. Elementary fine arts spaces, what we found, are equitable in that some schools have stages, which are used both for elementary choir concerts, band, orchestra, things like that, but then also just for speeches, guest speakers, Veterans Day ceremonies, things like that. Other schools that were older did not have those spaces. So we wanted to look at equity in terms of those spaces. In the middle school, how many of you have ever been to a middle school play or musical here in Barrington? Because, oh my gosh, when I came in to the district 2 years ago, I took my own children and said, I'm just going to go see this middle school production. And I think there would be a few kids up and a little, scenery, and we were blown away. So it actually involves sometimes upwards of 200 students doing backstage, on stage, pretty sophisticated productions. The quality is just incredible, but the stage itself is limited. And asking for feedback from those middle school directors, they said to me, sometimes we can't put as many kids on the stage as we want to because literally, every square foot's being used. And then the high school, you're going to hear about through a video in just a minute, but was built in 1960. The seats were moved from a different part of the building to the new auditorium in the 60s. It's been well loved that, 3 uses per day, 7 days a week. They've been well loved, they've been well cared for, but they're pretty outdated. And then also just display spaces for the visual arts. Some of the schools we visited, like Stevenson particularly, I was very struck by how art was everywhere within the building and it wasn't separated. And again, if we think about like that 21st century learning, we want to try to break students out of that mold of I'm going to art now, and then I'm going to math, and then I'm going to science, because it's all connected in a lot of different ways. And as much as they can see that and experience it throughout the day, whether they're a kindergartner or a 12th grader is a good thing. As part of the core team, we actually traveled around to different schools within the area and looked at their spaces, athletic spaces, fine art spaces, instructional spaces, and two of the places we visited were Lake Zurich High School on the left and then Stevenson High School on the right. And we have a video that I'm going to show you that has a student who traveled with us and kind of looking at this experience through her lens, comparing her current spaces here to Lake Zurich specifically.
Originally, I actually got interested in fine arts in 7th grade is when I started performing. Now I'm here and I'm doing shows all the time. Hi, I'm Mae Bostert. I'm a junior at Barrington High School and I am a performer in our fine arts program. Sideware! When I actually started doing theater here, it was really cool to be able to be one of the bigger kids that is on stage, and we have such great teachers. When you walk in here, it just kind of seems like small and kind of dingy, and it makes you kind of sad to be in here sometimes. We don't really have that much rehearsal space, so then it kind of, we all are encroaching on each other's space, and it's really difficult sometimes to get stuff done in time for our shows. The fly system I know is outdated. If you're thrown into a show and you're told you're going to be doing lifts and you've never done lifts before, then you're going to be uncomfortable and you're not going to really want to do it, or you're not going to give it your all because you're not quite sure what you're doing. If you had a newer or better updated auditorium, you'd be able to do more shows and we'd be able to try different things and get a feel for different acting styles, different tech things, different sound things. When you walk into Lake Zurich, you walk into the actual auditorium and you're impressed by how beautiful it is. And the acoustics are amazing and the seats look nice and everything is just very aesthetically pleasing. When we have more space and the space is better equipped for what we need to do, there are more opportunities.
So for the last few minutes, what I want to show you are 3 schools and some possible ideas and designs.
I'm Mike Opshist. I'm the athletic director here at Barrington High School. I'm here with Ms. Babby Barrero.
Hello, I'm Babby Barrero. I'm the Life Skills Department Chair at the high school here. That's physical education, driver's education, health, family consumer science, and the Little Broncos Day School, and PE, of course. We're here specifically tonight to talk to you about physical activity and wellness as one of the cogs in the Blueprint 220 wheel. Developing traits to engage in physical activity and wellness, and appreciation for physical fitness, participation in extracurricular and co-curricular clubs, including individual and team sports. It is no secret the value that extracurricular sports, as well as being physically fit and active, has on the overall person.
We do want to cover this a little bit and just talk a little bit about elementary in general.
So your elementary facilities have some different issues at different schools depending on the school, but you'll note that the number of PE classes has tripled between the years of 2005 and 2017, where we currently are right now. Between the different buildings, in some buildings you have size differences, in some buildings you have the availability and the usage of the building that's an issue, some of them you have different flooring needs and issues, and then others you have some of the infrastructure having to do with technology that are changes between buildings. Elementary PE is growing and the numbers are growing, but the spaces are not growing. So you're talking about, as we've talked a lot about, technology integration over the last few years, gym walls and gym dividers so we can better use the space and divide the space for the multiple classes. Flooring needs, flooring changes, additional storage spaces for all the equipment you need because you have more students, and then of course additional activity spaces. And then you get to the middle school, and you have similar needs there as well, but again, different needs between the two middle schools. Middle school PE focuses a lot on student safety, of course, giving as much activity time to the kids so they're active and getting in active minutes, acquiring skills from a skill acquisition standpoint, and then, of course, your fitness goal and your fitness achievements, and teaching them how to be physically fit young people. Again, with the growing numbers between the two middle schools, you have the need for more equipment. You have the need for more space. We don't have good storage for those things. We have turned some closets into some workout rooms, things like that. So, and even at Prairie Campus, we don't have enough lockers for all the kids there. So those are big issues in the PE world for us as the district grows. This is just a diagram, just an example of kind of an architect's rendering based on listening to just a few of the needs that Lyons Elementary in the back in the top right, and then of course Station Middle School here. This is nothing concrete. This is just an example of some of the possibilities that exist based on some of the needs between the school.
This is a diagram, Barrington High School, and looking at construction phases over the years. If you notice the core of the high school, 1948, and then you see the other progression, the phases, 1959, 69, construction additions in 1980, and then the last phase in 1999. Okay? Babby and I were both teachers, coaches back at that time, and I remember when that referendum went out to the community, there was a great need for classroom space, okay? Additional space and much need for upgraded spaces. I think there were a couple mobile classrooms in the front of the high school at that time. One of the biggest needs came in the area of science. Our science labs needed to be greatly updated and enlarged. So what they did in this process, they took our old gymnastics gym, gutted it, and turned it into a number of fantastic science labs. They took our auxiliary gym, again, turned that into science labs, some office space, some storage space, and locker rooms. They took the main gym at that time, and they also transformed that into health classrooms, a foods lab, locker rooms, training room, concession stand, a weight room, and then they left a core of that old gym and they basically transplanted a gymnastics gym there. So we're the basketball coaches at that time. The athletic director comes up to us and says, good news, we're getting a brand new gym. Bad news, you're losing all your other gyms. So 1999, you see in the upper right-hand corner there, that's our current gym. It was built at that time. It was great having a new gym. But honestly, when the smoke cleared, the amount of square footage that we had for PE and athletics for indoors was no more than what we had prior to that. So if you think about that, In 2017, we pretty much have the same indoor space square footage that we had back in 1980. Okay, so 37 years. Lots changed since 1980. In athletics, I have 4 levels of girls soccer, 3 levels of boys volleyball, 2 levels each of girls and boys water polo, 3 of girls bowling, 2 levels of competitive cheerleading and competitive dance, and we have 3 levels of boys lacrosse and 3 levels of girls lacrosse. And on top of that, since 1980, youth sports programs in the area have grown tremendously.
Yeah, physical education in 1980, very different than physical education in 2017. One of the biggest things you can remember from 80 to now, we have about almost 800 more kids in our building. So that's one of the huge differences. We offer a lot, I'm proud to say we offer many different course offerings for us in physical education. Adventure education is one of them. Weight training, we now offer it not only for the juniors and seniors, but also for the sophomores. We have such an interest in that. Fit Females is a junior-senior class. Is very popular right now in our school, all fitness-based. Blended sophomore PE is something that's just 2 years old. We're running it with our sophomore kids. They are wearing a Fitbit. They have the option to blend out of a couple of days of the week if they meet their fitness markers and their zone markers. Very popular and really going very well. Sophomore dance, we now have sophomore dance and our junior-senior dance classes. We turn kids away because we don't have enough space in dance. We have our team sports for our junior seniors and our lifetime sports. We're getting to the point though in physical education, and again, I'm proud of where we are, but we're starting to be limited. Our curriculum is starting to be driven by our space, and that's just not what we want. We want to keep driving the curriculum with what's best for kids. This is just a quick snapshot of a week in the winter or the spring indoor facilities for after-school activities. So as the basketball coach, I can tell you that back when I started coaching basketball in '89, we had practice right after school, and the boys had practice right after school, and all levels of the boys went, and all levels of the girls went, and then we all went home and had dinner with our families. Now we have one set of practices from, 3:45 to 6:15, and our next set of practices this year will be from 6:15 to 8:45, because we simply don't have the space to be able to allow boys basketball, girls basketball, in each of our 4 levels, and cheerleading and POMs to be able to practice in the facility after school.
In taking a look at some neighboring school districts and the facilities that they have, another unit school district right next door, Lake Zurich High School. Shortly after we built our main gym in 1999, they also built a main gym. They call it their Fieldhouse. It's really a large gym. But the thing that they did that I think is a great benefit was when they built that, it was an addition to what they currently had. So looking at this picture on the bottom, that's what they call the Fieldhouse. Large gym, very nice. But they still have their old main gym, and they still have the original gym when the high school was built. So when their teams are practicing after school, like Babby said, they practice right after school, and then they're done, they go home. So they don't have to have the stacked practice times like we do. Picture on the left, just a picture of some of our kids in our weight room. If you saw our weight room, you wouldn't believe it's the weight room of a school of 3,000 students, okay? And again, just showing you pictures. There's a picture of McHenry High School, about 2,300 students, and pretty spacious room. This is Crystal Lake South High School, 1,700 students. Again, to be able to fit a number of students in there. Probably have a couple PE classes doing weight training. So what we're looking at is basically our main needs indoors, another gym, larger fitness and weight rooms, maybe larger locker rooms, storage spaces, dance studio in the athletic area for both the dance team and for the dance classes and PE, meeting spaces, possibly an indoor track, and also some ADA accessibility on the north end of the school would be very nice.
Outdoor facilities, the same thing. The addition of our synthetic field on the stadium has been hugely helpful for physical education. When it rains, you can't go across the Field of Dreams. You can't go out to the soccer fields across the Field of Dreams because they're underwater some of the time. So we're able to use those spots for PE. So we would love to get some more turf out there where our current practice fields are, perhaps. Renovations in the Field of Dreams complex from 1991 were wonderful, but they're from 1991 and the infrastructure needs updating, as well as our varsity baseball press box bleachers, etc.
We took a trip to Glenbrook South High School and Homewood Flossmoor High School a few weeks back. We took a couple student athletes with us and did a little video with it. They interviewed them, talking about the facilities that they saw, comparing to the facilities that we have here.
Basically, I started playing football around 3rd grade.
There you go.
And being involved in athletics is much more than just playing a sport. It's just a bond that can't be broken. Hi, my name is Connor Abel, and I'm a senior at Barrington High School, and I play football and lacrosse. So the space isn't great because oftentimes we do have to find other places to practice, or there's not enough gym space for us to practice either. And the whole team can't go in the weight room at once because it'll get too crammed. When you're in the weight room and it's crammed and there's too many people in there, you just can't get any work done. People aren't getting stronger, they're not improving upon what has to be improved upon. Walking into this athletic hallway, I mean, you can kind of see it's a little outdated. And I mean, one of the first things that you'll notice is that you can smell the pool from right when you walk in. Every year you're having like thousands and thousands of people coming in through foot traffic, through your facilities. That first impression that people get is very important.
Walking in, I mean, it just looks like a college facility, and I think that's a direct correlation as to why these teams at this school are so efficient and so good at what they do, is because they have these facilities.
My coach just took us out of the weight room altogether because we don't have enough space in there and there's not enough benches, but here they have more than enough benches, and it makes me want to come in here. It'll make people want to come in here more when they have that much space.
Once you get like something new or something much nicer, it makes people want to come back and watch your team, and it would be really beneficial for us as peers in this community, because it would be a common place that we can go and just get our work done and exercise together, and it'll create a healthier society as well.
For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm John Breach. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning here in Barrington 220. And I have the pleasure and privilege of talking to you tonight about STEM and career pathways as a portion of the Blueprint 220 planning process. Depending on the study you read, between 65 and 85% of the careers that currently exist today do not exist in 30 years. So meaning there's going to be 65 to 85 new careers that we haven't even thought of yet. All right, but we'll be conservative and say over 50%. Okay, so over half the jobs that are going to exist in 20 to 30 years. Imagine, we didn't have the internet. What will they have in 20 or 30 years? Who knows? But imagine the possibilities. And so we have the unique opportunity here in Barrington 220 and in all schools to be preparing students for jobs we don't know exist yet, for majors that don't exist yet. I remember going to school and computer science was a new and emerging career path. Major, all right? Why STEM? STEM really represents science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but what it really represents when we think of careers is integrated and interdisciplinary thinking. And those are the key concepts that we know from what current employers are telling us the job force needs. That just being really good in a particular area, it might serve you well, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be moving on for advancement. You need to be able to solve problems in integrated ways, which means integrating different disciplines into how you solve problems. Some more fun facts though, because we need those, right? Did we know that currently 21 of the top 25 paying jobs that currently exist in the United States involve a high degree of STEM expertise. Currently right now, 50% of the jobs that exist right now, careers, involves a high degree of STEM expertise. In just 10 years, think about that. We were talking 20 and 30 years before, right? But in just 10 years, over 75% of the jobs in the workforce are going to require a degree of STEM expertise. What we should do is hear from some students and teachers who went on a journey to a newly redesigned school with some STEM spaces. And let's hear what they said.
See that the flooring here was intentionally different and to make sure that we could make as much mess in here as possible.
I think this is actually pretty cool since I haven't experienced like all this new stuff at our school.
This is flexible seating that we can pull apart and rearrange. We can keep the children in a cluster on these, or we can spread them out.
You will actually be more comfortable and willing to think harder when you're in a more comfortable space. And if you're like facing like across from each other, you're able to just like do this and focus on your project.
I think that this was a great experience.
So as we imagine the possibilities, we're going to take you through a little journey of what it could look like in Barrington 220 from the time a student enters our hallways at kindergarten, although we will have these same things at the Early Learning Center, through the time they leave at high school, right? And one of the questions it's important for us to answer is, why do we need to have STEM spaces at an early age? Because a lot of people think of STEM and they think, well, that's a middle school or a high school thing. But according to the National Science Foundation, for a child to choose a career in STEM, they need to have had significant exposure to STEM experiences by the time they're in 7th grade. Still sounds like middle school, right? However, for girls, that age drops to 2nd grade or 7 years old. So for girls, they found for them to want a career in STEM, they knew by the time they were in 2nd grade, they had it, or they didn't really pursue that career. So it's really important that we give kids these real world applied opportunities at a very young age. So what might that look like? Here's an example of a school, Barbara Rose. But what I want you to think about is not necessarily the drawings itself, but look at what we're looking at here. We're looking at flexible learning spaces with a library and maker space, newly redesigned and larger that can accommodate more traditional classrooms. And it's right in the central hub of the school so that students don't have to take a lot of time traveling there, and they can spend more time doing these integrative and interdisciplinary opportunities. I'll tell you, I was just in a class the other day at Grove where they were doing a STEM lesson, and the students were begging, literally begging, for 3 more minutes with the robots. Just 3, please. Okay? Imagine if we could give them these opportunities daily and in flexible spaces where it was integrated in what we do, so that these spaces, these maker spaces, while they can travel to them, we also have classrooms that are able to house these STEM activities. And so you can see this concept drawing of Grove. We have a much larger library and maker space attached, but we also have classrooms that we're designing with bigger spaces where students can do more interdisciplinary and integrative thinking and problem solving. Here's the current classroom. We're doing some of these redesigns at many of our elementary, middle, and high schools. This is just one example of a current redesign that we're looking at Countryside. This looks like a normal classroom, probably a classroom that many of us went to, correct? You got tables, you got chairs, all right? This is currently their STEM space in the library. This is the proposed redesign, where we have flexible furniture. We've got opportunities for students to work in small groups, pods, individually, or to come together as a whole class. I think this is really cool because I have young kids, and it's an elementary school. And the walls are going to be painted in whiteboard paint. Let's think about the journey now of our students through Barrington 220. Our students, your children, through this system. We want them to experience these career pathways. We want them to have opportunities in STEM and in all career pathways so that they can choose or know that they don't want to choose a particular career. Right? Additionally, we need to think not just flexibly, because you've heard that already tonight, right? But we need to think interdependently. We need to think about ways where students are integrating different curriculum in unique ways, where they're solving real current problems, and we don't know what those current problems are going to be 5-10 years from now, do we? We can project. We don't know. And this could be classrooms where students are working together. Not just in their traditional 20 to 30 student class, but on projects that are not grade level specific. And as we talked about before, the problems of the future are problems we don't even know exist yet. So we need to have spaces that allow students to stretch their imagination and solve unique problems in spaces that are flexible enough for them to do that, to integrate the interdisciplinary work that they're going to need to do in the next 10 to 20 years. And we also know, and this is an interesting aspect of STEM or makerspace, is that when you provide these opportunities for hands-on, independent work as well, it provides students with a sense of agency over their own education. By agency, I mean they have control, and we want them to look like career spaces too. So we want our students to be ready from the time they enter to the time they leave our Barrington 220 schools to be ready to enter the workforce in spaces they're familiar with and that they can thrive in because they've already been doing it.
going to be requested of those who are here tonight? You want to talk about?
Yeah, just real quick, we ask that you please complete that survey. It's very simple, it's short, it's not complicated, won't take very long. We want to be able to get some initial feedback here from everybody that attended this evening. It would help us over the next month and then down the road.
I do want to take an opportunity for all of us to thank the core team for all the work they did in preparing tonight's presentation. How about a round of applause for them? Thank you. As we entertain a motion to adjourn, I do want to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to spend the evening with us learning a little bit more about this. So thank you so much. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.